Hey there, I'm Bruce Ulrich. Welcome back to another video. So for this video, as you can see, I'm not in my shop. I'm at my friend Jeremy's shop, which is Meadows Wood Shop. He's up in Kentucky. He invited me up to build a few projects. He's building out a new shop. As you can see, we're still kind of in the construction phase, but we knocked out a few projects and this is one of them. So this is a solid walnut slab table with these really thick legs that we use some India ink to get a really nice dark dye on. Did some inlay work on them, and this slab is really neat because it was given to him by someone here locally and he had it milled up and dried, and pretty cool to be able to use something like that. So let me show you how we made it. This is a Slab Master. It is an awesome flattening tool that we got to check out when we visited Lakeside Woodworks, and I will actually have a video on more about this tool and more of their tools and their process, so be on the lookout for that. This machine has a 7-inch cutter head, and it made quick work of the flattening of this slab for us. After we got one side flat, we took it over to his massive 25-inch wide planer and ran it through just a few times to clean up the other side, and this thing was ready to go. We wiped a little bit of mineral spirits on just to give the grain a reveal, and man, it did not disappoint.
Gorgeous.
Oh, and Jeremy's hat got a little bit of branding representation in there.
Ooh.
So back at Jeremy's shop, we started working on the legs. We wanted some chunky legs for this live edge desk, and so we picked up some Douglas fir 4x4s. We knew we wanted to inlay a few bow ties to match the logo tokens that I cut out from Bird's Eye Maple, so I milled up a little more Bird's Eye Maple that he had. Then we turned our attention to the legs again. I made sure to set up stop blocks so that I could get the same size on each of the sections as we went. We added some pocket holes to them, and that's how we attach them, since you won't see the top or the bottom of these leg structures. I used a blot plane to round the edges just a little so they weren't sharp. I've never used India ink to darken and blacken something before, so this was a first for me. Jeremy wanted to try that as he's had the ink for a while, and we used a scrap to do a test piece and then held it up next to the actual walnut desk to kind of see if we would like it.
But I like the contrast.
That's gonna look good. It looked great, so we proceeded to stain the rest of the legs. This stuff is really easy to apply. It's a bit messy because it's really runny, but you basically just wipe it on quickly and don't leave any excess on there, and you get the most dark black stain that still shows the grain. There was very minimal dry time, and it didn't seem to raise the grain much, so I kind of expected it to, because I guess I thought it was water-based, but maybe it's not. There were a lot of firsts on this project. I had never used a track saw before, and Jeremy actually just picked up this new track saw, and we used it to cut the slab to its final length and also rip one straight edge on it, since that edge is going to be up against a wall. Jeremy drew up some bow ties on the computer real quick, and we took that file to his laser to cut them out. After that, we just sanded them a few times through the drum sander to pop them loose. Then we kind of just positioned them where we thought they would look good before actually securing them using the blue tape and CA glue method. and that way we could start cutting in the mortises. The basic idea is you put a piece of painter's tape down where you want the bow tie to go, and on that piece you put some CA glue. You put another piece of tape on the bottom side of your actual bow tie and you spray some accelerator for the CA glue on that one. Then you just position the two pieces of tape down onto one another, hold it for a few seconds, and it's set. At that point you can use your marking knife to cut around the bow tie, and when you pull it up and away, it leaves exactly what you need to cut still cut out of the tape. I just used a palm router with a 1/8 inch flat bit to get rid of most of the material in the bow ties. If you'll go really slowly and carefully, you can do a great job with this. I didn't go right up to the line, I just left a little bit of that so I could come back with a chisel and clean it up. Overall, I was pretty pleased with how these turned out. So I cut a couple of wooden tokens like I've done on a few other projects on my Glowforge before I actually came to Kentucky. And I happen to have a piece of bird's eye maple that I cut Jeremy's logo and my logo out, and we had already kind of coordinated on the size of Forstner bit that would work. So here you just see us inlaying those down into the desk. I thought this was a really cool idea that he had to put both of our logos in the desk that we made. I mixed up some of the walnut sawdust with the quick and thick glue, and we're just going to use this as a little bit of filler around the edges to make sure that there's no gaps and that the color really blends in. Be careful when you're doing this so you don't get glue down in the actual laser design, because it's really hard to get out after. So I use just my finger to apply it, kind of like you would, wood putty or something like that. Then it was time to move on to the bow ties. Be sure to use an auxiliary piece of wood or something to hammer them into place. If you hammer straight on the bow ties, you're likely to crack one of them. I pre-drilled some holes for the bolts that we were going to use to secure the legs to the tabletop, and the screws and washers that we had happened to not be black and we didn't want them to show, so we just spray painted those really quick. We wanted to clear coat the legs a couple of times, so we were using some polyacrylic, and I don't know if it was the humidity that day or what happened, but it ended up not drying perfectly clear. So we actually had to sand a little bit of that off and then come back and use an HVLP sprayer and spray on a really thin coat. That ended up working quite well. We spent a little time sanding, just sanding back all of the bow ties so they're flush and the logo tokens so they're flush, and everything looked really good at that point. Jeremy wanted to leave a little bit of that bark look on the live edge, so we took time to not sand it completely off. And here's another one of the firsts for me. I've not ever used Rubio Monocoat until this. So Rubio has a 2-part mixture for this clear one that we used, and it does not take very much. So this little can doesn't look like much, but we actually had a ton left and we only mixed up 1/3 of it. I just used a couple of dental syringes to make sure that we got the mixture the way it should be. It's 3 parts of the tall can there that you see and 1 part of the small can. So that way we could make sure to pull out exactly the amount we need and put it in a mix cup without contaminating either side. That way we still have plenty left for another project. And the stuff is really easy to apply. You just take some kind of scraper, or a lot of people even use a credit card, you may have seen. But just after you mix it thoroughly, you just pour it on and wipe it over your piece. I think you let it sit, I don't remember exactly, maybe about 15 minutes, and then you come back and wipe off any of the excess and then just buff it. And it should actually be totally dry within just a few minutes. At first I wasn't really sure about the durability of this product, but I found out it used to be used on floors. So that's why a lot of people started using it on tabletops and countertops. It is quite durable. Here you just see me buffing it a little bit with a cotton towel, and that just brings out a little bit of the sheen without making it too shiny. We marked out where we wanted the legs to go and pre-drilled the walnut just a little bit. We didn't want any chance of it splitting after all of this work. We don't think wood movement will be an issue on these, but we elongated those holes just in case. So yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate you checking this project out. Let me know below if you have any questions, or maybe if you've used an interesting dye technique that I have not tried. This was my first time doing the India ink on the legs. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. I really appreciate you watching. Give me a follow over on Instagram. I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff there. You can head over there and follow Jeremy at Meadows Wood Shop, so I'll leave his information. But thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.